Glad to be with you this week. I wanted to talk with you a little bit more about the city budget process that's ongoing right now. I know we've talked about it previously, and maybe some of you have signed up to deliver a deputation to City Council, to the Budget Committee actually, to talk about the proposed cuts. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about this because I had a chance to drop in on the deputations yesterday evening. They went from 9:30 in the morning till 9:30 last night, and they continue today, which is Thursday, December 8th. I happened to get there right as a number of women were speaking about the proposed $50,000 cut to the Immigrant Women's Health Center. Now, $50,000 is not a lot of money when we talk about the budget, the city's total budget of, I believe it's about $7 billion right now. So that $50,000 cut is not going to make much of a dent in the city's budget problems at all. But it will have a devastating impact on the Immigrant Women's Health Center. That $50,000 grant from the city triggers another grant from the province of $150,000. So the loss of one grant means quite likely the loss of that second bigger grant. And a $200,000 cut to a community service that has been operating here in this city since 1975. The Immigrant Women's Health Center has been operating. I remember when I worked at the Rape Crisis Center back in the early 80s, the Immigrant Women's Health Center was downstairs from us, and we worked together on many different projects. They continue to this day. They have a fantastic health bus service that goes to greet and meet immigrant women where they work in neighborhoods that are not well served. They have many, many other important programs. So to cut this $50,000, triggering this other cut, would devastate this center. For what? For a minuscule amount of money to be contributed to the city's budget. And people talked passionately about that. Women from the Immigrant Women's Health Center, women from Women's College Hospital, and other health clinics that realize if this kind of cut is approved for the Immigrant Women's Health Center, other cuts to other public health centers, those dealing with marginalized people, LGBT people, people without status in this city, very young people who are hesitant to go to their family doctor. These are the people that these health clinics serve. And to cut them and to nickel and dime them will cause quite a bit of devastation to those services and subsequently a lot of devastation to people who depend on those services. So people were fighting back against that. They were speaking out against it. One of the things that's important for us to understand is that our city does not need to be making these cuts. Our city has a $139 million surplus from last year, from 2011. That $139 million is more than enough to cover the $88 million of cuts that are being proposed. And that $88 million is made up of cuts to children's breakfast and lunch programs. It's made up of increases to TTC and cuts to service. It's made up of cuts to programs like the Immigrant Women's Health Center. It's made up of cuts to museums, libraries, parks and recreation programs. And all sorts of things are being floated by the city to solve this supposed crisis that we have with our budget, when in fact we don't have a crisis at all. And I've talked about this before. I know you know this, but it seems that the people at City Council are not listening, and they seem to be invested in creating a crisis that would justify cutting a whole bunch of services that they probably never believed the people of Toronto needed in the first place. It also is serving as an excuse to start charging people things like poor people, $2 to go swimming at a public pool. Where no fee existed before. It's being used to justify increasing the TTC fares again. And again, it's the poorest people of the city that use TTC, not people like Mayor Ford or his brother Doug Ford. They drive their cars all over the place. CEOs are driven all over the place. They're not worried about public transit. But the average person is very worried about public transit. And a 10% or a 10-cent raise in fares, or 15 cents, as being proposed by Councillor Peter Milchin today, that will devastate people. That's 10 cents per trip, folks. That's an incredible amount each day, an increase of 20, 30, 40 cents a day for people who depend on public transit. And, you know, if we were really in a crisis, then we would have done things that cities do in crises. We would have made the police budget stay at a 0% increase, or even asked them to cut a little bit. We would not have given police officers an 11.5 percent raise over the next 3 years. We would be demanding efficiencies in some of our bigger departments. We would be raising taxes, property taxes. We would not have killed the vehicle registration tax. These are all moves that take major amounts of money out of the budget and cause hardship. But instead, what the city is doing is they're trying to balance their budget. They're trying to fix this fake crisis on the backs of poor and marginalized people. And it's really important for people like you and me to step up and say no, and to let the city know that we know what they're trying to do. They're trying to privatize. They're trying to sell public assets to private business. They're trying to cut out programs that ideologically they never believed should exist. This is a mayor and some of his allies on council that believe that the city should be run like a business at a profit. They have no understanding of what it means to govern, what it means to build a great city. So it's important for us to step up and let them know what we think about this. Now, it's too late to sign up to do a deputation, but it's not too late to let your councillor and Mayor Ford know what you think. And you can write to them, and we'll put an address up on the screen where you can go to find your local councillors and the mayor's phone number, as well as their email address. I really want to encourage you to write all of the councillors and the mayor and to let them know what you think about this budget. They need to hear from more people than who they call the usual suspects, folks who are the leaders of organizations who often make it their business to call and write to their councillor. They need to hear from what they would consider ordinary taxpayers, people like you. Of course, taxpayers are also the people who work delivering or picking up our garbage. They're also the people who work in our parks. They're also the people who work at City Hall. But never mind. Let's remind them that all of the people of this city care about this city. We want to see them use that $139 million surplus for the benefit of the citizens of Toronto and the residents of Toronto. We do not want to see them nickel and diming people who can't afford it to death. So call them up. You can go to the toronto.ca website, click on the area Living in Toronto, and working with City Hall, and you'll find the link to your councillor's or your mayor's address. You can also call 311 and get that information. We can fight back against these cuts. Even though the city is acting as if these decisions have already been made, and they have sent letters to the Immigrant Women's Health Center, they have issued layoff notices already to city workers. In fact, this budget has not been decided, and we do have time to fight back against this. So do write to your councillor and let them know what you think. The budget committee will be making the recommendations soon, but City Council still has to vote on this. And they need to know, these councillors need to know that they will not get our votes the next time round if they make these decisions to balance the budget on the backs of the poorest and the most marginalized in the city. So let's do that together, and we can see if we can stop these cuts. You can also always follow what's going on with City Council and the 2012 budget by going to two websites, either www.torontostopthecuts.com, or you can visit commitmenttocommunity.org, and we'll make sure those are both up on the screen for you. So let's take action today together. I also wanted to just comment on something that happened on December 6th, which was the National Day of Remembrance and Action Against Violence Against Women, of course, and that was the 22nd anniversary of the Montreal Massacre. Many of us had a chance to go to vigils and different events to mark that day. This was also the day, unfortunately, that a man named Charles McVeety, who runs a Christian, supposed, quote, Christian college here in Toronto, and some other faith leaders and other members of the community held a press conference on December 6th in the morning. And their press conference, almost impossible to believe, but they are protesting the recent anti-bullying legislation brought in by the Premier Dalton McGuinty. Hard to believe, folks. These people believe that it is better to tolerate harassment, bullying, violence, and other behavior against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans students that, as we've seen in the past, often leads to tragic suicides. These people figure it's better to tolerate that behavior on the part of bullies And so what if a few kids take their own lives? Better in their mind to do that than to make teachers and students learn and come to understand that LGBT students have rights, that LGBT students have the right to be who they are. It's just incredible, and it's disheartening. This man, Charles McVety, and this organization, the organization he runs, also were responsible for bringing complaints forward when the McGuinty government proposed curriculum, sex education curriculum in our schools that would make it possible for teachers and students to talk about lesbian gay families, make it possible for them to talk about the realities of transgendered students and people, and make it possible to create inclusive, equitable schools. That curriculum that was designed by over a period of years by many experts in this field was dropped by the Premier as a reaction to the complaints of people like Charles McVety and others. That happened about a year ago. Once again, these people are raising their homophobic objections and transphobic objections to a measure that the Premier has initiated that would lead in some part to greater safety for our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans students in our schools. Now, this legislation that the Premier's put forward, the anti-bullying legislation, it's not perfect. I don't know that expelling students who are bullies or who harass is the best idea. Often what that does is it just sends them to other schools, so it just transfers the problem somewhere else. Often these students are sent home to spaces where they learned these homophobic attitudes and other and transphobic attitudes. They've learned these in their homes, and so sending them back to those spaces is not really useful. I think it's always better to bring people in and do education. Obviously, students who are at risk need to be protected, but at the same time, I think it is possible to work with bulliers to find out where they learned their attitudes, to find out and to talk with them about how we can change those attitudes. But having said that, having some kind of legislation, having some kind of action in our schools against bullying, against homophobia, transphobia, racism, sexism, all the other things that this legislation is designed to combat, that's a good thing. And to have these groups, right-wing groups with an agenda that is homophobic and transphobic, to have them come forward and try to intimidate and bully, frankly, the Premier into dropping that legislation and to try to intimidate and bully our schools into continuing to tolerate this behavior is unconscionable. And it's something that we need to be aware of, and we need to get in touch with our MPP, our local MPP, or the Premier, and let them know that we support anti-bullying measures in our schools, that we believe that our schools need to be safe spaces for all students, particularly for marginalized students such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students. And we need our schools to be those safe places. We need our gay, straight alliances. We need our groups and our clubs that are going to step forward and stand up for all students. We do not need homophobia and transphobia to be used to bully the Premier into dropping this kind of action. So please do go to the ontario.ca website, scroll down the side, look for your MPP, look for the Premier, and drop them a line and let them know that you support anti-bullying legislation. We need to have safe schools for our students. If we don't pay attention to the suicides, what will we pay attention to? Thanks.